How's it going, guys? I'm Danny, and this week I have a topic that I wouldn't have guessed y'all would vote for, but it was in the straw poll last week and it was a top voted topic, so here we go. If you don't like this video, vote for a better one next week. Alright, so the topic of this video is which disc should be the go-to driver for your power level. Now, I think having one disc as a go-to driver is a better idea than having 8 different molds, especially for beginners. Learning how to work one disc a lot of different angles will sharpen your form and sharpen your release angles and your power level and make you a better player. Having to rely on a different disc for a different line isn't as consistent. Now, when you're looking for one of these discs, it's important to find something that's not too understable or not too overstable. You want something that's overall fairly straight. Anything too overstable and it's going to be hard to get that anhyzer or that straight flight, and anything too understable isn't going to have enough of a left finish on it to be reliable. Now, the discs that I'm recommending are from Dynamic Discs. They're my favorite brand and I think they make the best disc, but if you have your favorite brand, that's fine. You can look for a similar disc from your manufacturer. But if you don't have a favorite brand, I definitely recommend you check out Dynamic Discs. Now on to the discs. Now, if your maximum distance is less than 300 feet, say right around 280, I recommend the Dynamic Disc Breakout. Now, this is a disc that tends to get overlooked because it's beginner friendly, but it's a fantastic disc. It's got easy turn, so throwing an anhyzer is fairly easy, but it does have a little bit of fade. So if you crank over on it, it's not gonna dive into the ground and cut roll. It's gonna fight out of it and either give you a nice long anhyzer or a fairly easy straight shot if you turn it just a little bit and let it fade back. Now, because it has that fade, it's also really easy to get it to hold a hyzer. I generally throw pretty hard and I didn't have to back too far off of the Breakout to get it to hold a nice swooping hyzer the whole time, and it was really accurate. So, easy distance, lots of control, check out a Breakout. If you have a little bit more power and you throw, say, 300 to 340 feet, you should be throwing a Dynamic Disc Escape. This disc is incredible. Again, it doesn't have a lot of turn. It's really easy to get to flip up to flat, and it doesn't have a ton of fade either. It's not going to dump at the end of its flight. That means it's really workable. You can throw hyzers with it, it'll hold the hyzer. Straight shots are super easy. And anhyzers, if you crank over on them, the disc holds it for such a long time. It's only a 9-speed, so it doesn't have that big driver fade at the end. So it's gonna hold the anhyzer for a really long time. And the glide on this disc is insane. It goes so far. I accidentally threw it way too far, way too many times when I was filming. It just doesn't stop. It comes out of the hand really fast and it just stays in the air. So if you want easy distance and easy line shaping, I recommend an Escape. Now, if you throw a little bit more than that, if you throw 350 up to about 390, I recommend a Trespass. If you haven't thrown this disc, it is an awesome disc. It's a little bit more stable than the Escape and a good bit faster. So it's easy to get to hold a hyzer because it's a little more stable. Straight shots are fairly easy, although they do tend to fade out a little bit at the end. But for an anhyzer, if you crank over on it, it will hold it. And because it's got fade, it's going to start to glide out at the end and actually get you further right. So the Trespass is an awesome disc. If you throw 350 to 400, it should be a good workable disc for you. Now, if you're a big arm and you like to throw hard, I recommend a Biofusion Defender. The Lucid Plastic is a little bit more overstable, not quite as workable, so Biofusion is my favorite. They tend to have a real good dome on them, so they're really glidey. And the thing about the Defender is it has a late fade. It's pretty overstable out of the hand, but it holds whatever angle you put on it for a long time before it starts to fade out and dump. So that makes it really workable. Hyzers, because it's overstable, are fairly easy. Straight shots are a little bit trickier. You tend to have to throw it flat and force it over and it'll fight out at the end, but it nets a fairly straight flight. And anhyzers, you really do have to crank over on it. It's got fade, but it's fairly late, so it will hold the anhyzer pretty good before it tends to fight out at the end. So the Biodefender is fairly overstable new, but once you get one fairly beat in, it will be an amazingly workable disc. It's like a longer Trespass. You can throw it flat and it'll sort of flex a little bit. If you throw it on an anhyzer, it's going to hold it a lot better once it's a little seasoned. And because it has that fade, it's again not going to dive into the ground and cut roll, but it's going to glide way over to the right before it sets itself down. So some final thoughts real quick. I didn't suggest any mid-ranges. I know a lot of people suggest mid-ranges for people who start out or don't have a ton of power, but the problem with mid-ranges is they don't have a sharp nose. Mid-ranges have a really blunt nose on the end, and that is going to forgive throwing nose up. I started out throwing mid-ranges and I threw nose up for years before I was able to correct it. So that's why I recommend a breakout. A breakout's a nice, easy to throw driver. It takes less torque to get to fly right than some of the mids that I've thrown. So having something with a nose on it is really important because that's going to teach you how to throw it nose down. Might be a little bit more frustrating for the first round or two, but once you get that nose angle figured out, the driver is going to fly a lot better than the mid-range. So that's all I've got for this week, guys. If you didn't like this video, vote for a better one next week in the straw poll. It's not my typical style of video to talk specifically about discs, but if it's what you want, that's what I'll do. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the random videos I put out throughout the week. I had 2 come out this week and I literally have no idea when those are coming out. Remember, you can message my page on Facebook if you'd like any tips or a form critique. I'd love to help you out there. And until next time, remember, slow is smooth and smooth is far.